Hey guys, Martin here from DSYNC again with another video for you. Got an interesting question through our support again from Pierre. He was asking about joining data from multiple sources and the data enrichment, and if it can be done through DSYNC. So it is a complex issue, it is a complex question. So this will be probably a 2 or 3 part video. It's going to be a little bit longer. So we'll start looking at callbacks. So in this video we will introduce you to callbacks. We'll explain what it is and how you can use it. And in the next videos we will actually set up a specific example where we're getting data from somewhere, then we fetch data from another source, enrich basically the data and send it to a target system. So to start with, you need to understand how the DSYNC process works. So the DSYNC process at its base contains your source location, the DSYNC itself and the mapping engine, and the target location. So one source, one target, and some kind of transformation in between. Now, in this case, because we need to fetch data from 2 sources, what DSYNC allows you to do is to set up callbacks. And if you set up a callback on a job, that job, when it finishes processing, which means you get the data, it goes through DSYNC, the data gets pushed into the destination. At that point, when it pushes the data to destination, you can call and start another job you have set up on a canvas. There are some specific requirements on the data, on the format of the data of the callback, and we'll go into these in this video. So I have a simple job set up here. It's a manual upload of a file and manual download just to demonstrate the callback. If we have a look at the structure of the data, your destination gonna have one ID, which is a numeric field, and it's got a name, which is a text field, and I'm doing some one-to-one mapping. There's a function applied, so let me take that out to not confuse anyone. We'll save it. So one-to-one mapping, if I run this job, I upload a file and I should get the same file back out of it. It's in JSON format. So let's look at that. Let's run this job. So we'll start it. I have my file in here. And we get a file back. If we look at the file, all there's ID is 1, and you have the name John. Same source, same destination. Now, what if I wanted to execute another job and pass this data into it? So how would I go about that? So we'll create a new job. Again, the source can be anything. So we'll do callback in. You can name it however you want. It's a free text. We'll do download on this side. Callback destination. And now the important part. So every time you set up a callback on a job, the data is sent to the next job in a specific format. Now, the format is, if we go with JSON, basically it has got 2 objects underneath the main kind of JSON object. So in JSON notation, you would have the main JSON object, and underneath that you have the data object and the callback object. So you would have something like the first object, which is data, and then you would have something like this for the callback data. Now, what do these mean and what data do they kind of hold? So the callback data holds the original data from the first job, the job which actually executed or started this another job, which is basically callback. So all the data coming out of that first job will be inside of this callback object for you, and the data we'll explain later. Let's not worry about this right now. We'll explain it in the second video when we actually grab some data from extra source. Basically, yeah, this is for the enrichment of data, so you can set up another API endpoint or something which fetches extra data, so it would be in this object here. But let's focus on the callback right now, and let's see how it works. So if I let DSYNC to generate the structure for me, I did not actually generate it correctly, so let me redo that. We'll have the data object, and we have the callback object. There. This is static, so the source endpoint of your callback must be always in this format. It's a DSYNC internal format. If you don't follow this format, you won't be able to basically do anything with the data which are coming to you from the callback job. So always remember to have this kind of structure, the main structure of the data layout. Then you can, of course, add extra fields underneath the object. So if I wanted to add something into the callback, I would add it underneath that callback object, extra field name, date of birth, whatever. But at this stage, I just want to show you what it does in terms of the data. So if we run the first job, so that's our source of the callback job setup. Let me set up the destination. The destination can be anything you want. So in my case, I just want to grab the original data back. So it was the ID, which was numeric field, and the name, which was a text field. We'll save that. We will create a job. I'll create a link for that job, and we will define a mapping. So this is our callback job, and this is important. The name of the job is important, and I'll show you why is it important in a little bit. And this is our callback job map. So we'll define the mapping. I don't think I've actually added the ID and name under the callback. I did not. I forgot about that. Apologies. So let me go back, and we want to grab the fields. So we want to grab the ID from the original calling job, and we want to grab the name, and these must be underneath the callback. Let's save that, go back to the mapping. We should be able to map these now. So ID and name. Okay, that's all done. So that's my callback job set up. And now how do you actually define a callback? So you find your original job, which is supposed to call or execute your callback job. You click on that line on the relation in between the middle point and the destination, and you will notice you have this callback option in here, and it's a drop down, and it basically lists every single job which you have set up on a canvas. So as I mentioned before, it's important to note the name of the job which you want to call. So we just named it callback job in here. So I'll go into my first job, I select that callback job from the drop down, and here it is, and I simply add it into it and save the settings. Now we can run the job. So what this is gonna do, once I run it, this first job will execute, which will give me a file to download in a pop-up, manual one. As soon as that's finished, this job will be called with the callback data, which I have defined in here. This will run and it will give me another file. It's gonna be incidentally exactly the same file because of the mapping, but you can kind of see where I'm going with this. So let's run this. Put a file in. Okay. The first one, second one. So you can see this second one will be the output of this job, of the mapping, and because of the mapping I've done there, it's gonna be exactly the same. As you can see, it's got the ID 1 and name John. If I cancel that and look at the first one, which was this job here, the original one, it's gonna be exactly the same in terms of the data. There you go. So I have ID 1, name John. Now we can go back and look at the source data which came out of this job when the callback was made and when this job was executed. So if I go in the history and look at the source data, download source, you can see that you've got basically the two objects in there, the data object and the callback object. Data, as I said, we'll look at in another video, but the callback, that's basically the output from the original job. And one last thing to note, you can chain multiple processes. So you can have this job call this job, and in turn this job call another job, and you can chain them however you want. So you can do multiple calls to multiple sources, grab more data, and then finally send it off to some destination of your choice. The only limitation in here is the circular callbacks. What that means, you're not able to set up this job to call this job, and in turn this job to call back on this job, because you would basically create a circle and it would never stop. So that's actually for fun, just for fun. This is my test job. So if I go into callback of this job, let's see if we have test in here. There we go, that's this one. And let me try to edit. DSYNC will tell you error occurred while trying to save the callback job. So if you see this, it's most likely because you are trying to create a circular callback, which we don't allow you to do. So that's pretty much it. That's intro to callbacks, and I will explain and give you a little bit better example of how can you use it in the next video. Bye.